One thing I hear all the time when people talk about Sharjah real estate is this: the resale potential is weak. Or sometimes, you can buy in Sharjah, but good luck trying to resell it later. And here's what's interesting. At the same time people are saying that, Sharjah has been recording billions of dirhams in property transactions every year. So which one is true? Is resale demand actually weak? Or are people comparing Sharjah to the wrong market? Because if you look beyond the headlines, the story becomes much more interesting. And keep watching, because later, I'll show you why some Sharjah communities are seeing very different resale performance from what most people expect. I think a lot of this belief comes from speed. Dubai moves very fast. Some investors buy expecting quick appreciation, fast flipping, or an exit within 12 to 24 months. And compared to Dubai, Sharjah can feel slower. The market is more end-user driven. Many buyers are families planning to stay for years rather than months. And when people hold properties longer, the market naturally feels less aggressive. But slower movement doesn't automatically mean weaker resale demand. In fact, many stable property markets around the world are built exactly this way. And this becomes important because the next point is where most people make the wrong comparison. I think many people judge Sharjah using Dubai standards, and that immediately creates unrealistic expectations. Dubai's market is heavily influenced by international investors, luxury developments, tourism, and speculative capital. Sharjah is different. The demand is often driven by families, working professionals, business owners, and long-term residents. For example, someone buying a luxury apartment in Dubai may be hoping for rapid appreciation within a year or two. Meanwhile, a buyer in Sharjah may be planning to stay for 5, 10, or even 15 years. Those are two completely different buyer profiles. And because of that, resale activity behaves differently too. But here's the part many people overlook. Different doesn't necessarily mean worse. When you look at the numbers, the picture starts changing. Let's look at some actual figures. Sharjah recorded more than 40 billion dirhams worth of real estate transactions in recent years. In some reporting periods, transaction activity increased by over 30% year on year. That's not what a weak market usually looks like. You also have communities like Aljada, Maryam Island, Masaar, and Sharjah Sustainable City, attracting growing demand from both residents and investors. Some apartment communities have seen price growth of around 15% to 20%. Certain villa communities have recorded gains exceeding 20% during strong periods. And here's the question: if resale demand was truly weak, who's buying these properties? Markets don't experience that level of transaction activity without buyers actively participating. And that brings us to another important point. Not every property performs the same. This is probably the biggest misconception. People often talk about Sharjah as if it's one market, but it isn't. Just like Dubai has stronger and weaker communities, so does Sharjah. Some older buildings genuinely struggle with resale, especially properties with poor maintenance, limited parking, older layouts, or weaker locations. But newer master-planned communities tell a different story. Take Aljada, for example. A few years ago, many people viewed it as an emerging development. Today, it's become one of the most recognized communities in Sharjah. The same goes for projects like Masaar and Maryam Island. These developments offer walkability, modern amenities, retail areas, green spaces, and lifestyle-focused planning. Naturally, buyer demand behaves differently there, and that's exactly why blanket statements about resale potential can be misleading. One thing people underestimate is the power of end users. Because many Sharjah buyers aren't chasing quick profits. They're buying homes they genuinely want to live in, and that matters. Why? Because end users care about things like schools, community atmosphere, parking, space, convenience, and long-term quality of life. When families enjoy living somewhere, they recommend it to their friends and relatives. That creates organic demand. and organic demand is often more sustainable than hype-driven demand. But there's another reason. Resale conversations are changing, and it has a lot to do with how Sharjah itself is evolving. I think many people still picture the Sharjah of 10 years ago, but the city is changing rapidly. Today, you see modern architecture, master-planned communities, walkable neighborhoods, new retail destinations, green spaces, and lifestyle-oriented developments. Some newer communities look completely different from the image many people still have in mind. And in many cases, buyers can still enter these communities at prices significantly lower than comparable developments in Dubai. That's attracting attention, and more attention usually leads to more buyers, which naturally supports resale activity over time. But let's be realistic for a moment. No market is perfect, and Sharjah isn't an exception. If someone is expecting extremely fast flipping, luxury-level speculation, or overnight appreciation, they may still prefer Dubai. Some older areas continue facing challenges like aging infrastructure, traffic, and weaker buyer demand. So, yes, certain properties will absolutely be harder to resell than others. But that's true in almost every property market. I think something important is happening right now. People are becoming more practical. As living costs continue rising across the UAE, buyers are paying closer attention to value, space, stability, and affordability. 5 years ago, many buyers focused almost exclusively on Dubai. Today, more people are actively exploring alternatives. And that's one reason communities like Aljada, Masaar, Maryam Island, and Sharjah Sustainable City are receiving much more attention than before. We're also seeing strong transaction activity across Sharjah, with billions of dirhams worth of property changing hands every year. That tells us something important. There are buyers in the market, there is demand in the market, and there are people willing to purchase quality properties when they see value. More attention creates more buyers, and more buyers creates stronger resale opportunities. And that's a trend worth paying attention to. So, does Sharjah have limited resale potential? I think the answer is mostly myth. Yes, Sharjah behaves differently from Dubai. Properties may not always move at the same speed, and some communities will naturally perform better than others. But when you look at the transaction volumes, growing buyer activity, continued development, and increasing interest in newer communities, it's clear that Sharjah has an active and healthy resale market. The reality is that people buy, sell, and resell properties in Sharjah every day. The challenge isn't whether resale demand exists. The challenge is understanding where the demand is strongest. Because just like any property market, some locations, communities, and property types will outperform others. So perhaps the better question isn't, does Sharjah have resale potential? It's, which parts of Sharjah are creating the strongest resale opportunities today? And that's where smart buyers usually focus their attention. In the next episode, we'll tackle another common belief about Sharjah and see whether it's myth or reality. If you've enjoyed this discussion, leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever bought, sold, or invested in Sharjah, I'd love to hear your experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.